It's time to make a witch's broom. Are you ready? Hey Kimberbell friends, Kristen Som here, and we are continuing our work on Candy Corn Quilt Shoppe. It is a quilt by Kimberbell, and we're having so much fun already. If you haven't already joined the Kristen Creates Facebook group, that's where we are sharing pictures and the different challenges for each day. So today we are on page 17 and we are doing broom parking. So this one is cute. It's normally, from what I've seen in the past, normally the saying is broom parking only, all others will be towed, like TOAD. And this one is broom parking only, all others will be stitched in the ditch. I thought that was pretty cute. So those of us that just completed Vintage Boardwalk a week ago or so, we just did our stitch in the ditch. So I thought that this was pretty cute. So a couple things on this one. If you look at the photo in the booklet, it shows wavy 3 quilting and it shows it sideways, like vertical, and yet the directions say to do it in wavy 3 horizontal. So do what works for you. As I mentioned previously, I am doing the same quilting designs that Kimberbell recommended for this quilt. They did it for their quilt, and they are sharing the information for those that just want to make it easy and follow along. So I printed out the guide. If you look on the Kimberbell website under quilting, they have a candy corn bundle that you can purchase. And in that bundle, there's various photos. So one of them is this guide that shows you what quilting design they use for every single block. And that's what I'm doing. I printed it out. And so I'm just following along with the Kimberbell guide and sharing that information for you guys. So for broom parking, what we're going to need today is, it's a very simple block today with just one applique piece. So we're going to start with this black and white striped fabric, and as always, back it with fusible stabilizer. So our group is doing great, I have to say. I saw in the other group, in the larger Kimberbell group, that there's some people with puckering and asking questions and all that, and you guys are all doing great. All of the blocks look so perfect. I'm quite impressed. So if you're not using fusible stabilizer on the back, do it. It really helps. And we also have our batting. And then, like I mentioned before, I am backing my applique pieces with fusible stabilizer as well. It really helps ward off the puckers. Excuse me. So for our main fabric, like I said, the black and white striped, we're going to start with this at 6.5 by 8.5, and back to a fusible stabilizer, 6.5 by 8.5, and then we have one applique piece, and it is that really cute purple cauldron wording in 4 by 6, and again back with fusible stabilizer, 4 by 6 for the sign. And then for our batting, so what we always do it 1/2 inch larger than our final cut size, and our final cut size of this block is 4.5 by 6.5. So that means that we want our batting to be 5 by 7, 5 by 7 batting. All right, and then we are going to quilt, and like I mentioned, Kimberbell is doing wavy 3 horizontal. We just use that for our spider, our last block, but they're in different locations on the quilt, so it doesn't matter. So wavy 3, they're saying to do it in horizontal, but the photo is vertical. So it's totally up to you on how you want to do it. It's your quilt, do it your way. I don't know if you can see that, but they've got the background quilting in black and they have it vertical, but it does say in the guide to do horizontal. So whatever works for you. It also could be depending on what hoop size you use, because some of them automatically turn sideways. So if that's the case, then I'll give you information when we get to that part. I always do that part in pictures. So on a side note, yesterday I told you I wasn't afraid of spiders. When I don't like them, but I'm not really afraid of them. And that's when we were working on the Eek spider block. And yesterday, a little fella came to join me in my craft room. So you can see him here. This guy scared me so much. He was huge, and the biggest problem is, do you see where he is? He was right next to my Kimberbell mug, that ceramic or glass mug that we got in the very first Bella box. So I didn't know what to do. He's right next to it. I'm not going to smash him with my mug right there. Very breakable mug. So I didn't know what to do. So I ended up not being able to get the guy. So he's somewhere in my craft room. So you know what that means. We have to blow up the craft room. We have to burn it down. There's a big spider somewhere in here and I haven't found him. I even sent a message to my daughter with a picture of him and I said, help. She lives about 9 hours away. I don't think she's going to be able to help. So anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. Big, strong black belt girl, not afraid of spiders. And yeah, I am for sure. Did not like that guy at all. So not fun. So we're going to work on broom parking today. And one other thing, I got some presents today. I'm pretty excited. So Oma Darlings, our wonderful sponsor for this quilt project, sent me the thread kit. Yay! I'm so excited. I have to say that since I didn't have the thread kit, I was trying to figure out what from my stash would work, and that's just harder. Let's just make it easy. Get the thread kit. If you haven't already done it, Oma Darlings has these in stock, so you definitely want a thread kit if you can do it. Plus, it helps with building up your stash, right? So you get all these really fun colors. There are there's 2 oranges, so a lighter orange and a darker orange. There's this yellow, really bright yellow, super fun color. And then this like sand color, that was good for the hoops, around the hoops that we did yesterday. And this really pretty green, I think it's called kiwi. Yeah, kiwi. What a fun color is that? I love that. And then there is a lighter gray and a darker gray. So this one is great. In my opinion, this one is great for the that little screw on the hoops that we did yesterday. That one is very helpful. I had to try and find something that would work because I didn't have this. And grays are not that easy. They're very, very different. So, and then black, and it's not regular white. Did you see that? It's like super white. I think it's called super white, something like that. Yep, super white. So that's pretty fun. And then did I mention the purple? I love purple. I don't have, it's funny, I have lots of pinks, surprise, surprise, but I don't have that many purples. So I could not find a replacement for this, something that worked just right. So I'm really excited to have this thread kit. So if you haven't already, make sure and order your thread kit from Oma Darlings. It's specific to the Candy Corn Quilt Shoppe, so it already has all the colors that you need for doing this thread. And then you know everything goes together. You don't have to worry about, oh, should I bring in this blue or should I bring in whatever? All these colors go with the quilt that's already planned. So that's super nice and helpful. And also, you know what I should mention? If you look, you know how when we're doing the quilt blocks and you're trying to figure out what color you're supposed to use if you're following the guide, and it's got this teeny tiny little box and you're like, golly, is that the light gray or the dark gray? It's hard to tell. Well, if you look on page 3, it has all of them in a larger box so that you can reference from this to that little box to be able to know which color to use. So especially when it's only showing one orange and it's in this teeny tiny little box and you don't know if it's the lighter orange or the darker orange, you can reference it from here and that tells you which one. Super easy guide. So that's very helpful on page 3 of your booklet. So one other thing that I got from Oma Darlings, excuse me, is my backing. So, oh, how cute. And she sent me a little note. I didn't even see that yet. I just got this out of my mailbox today. So, one thing I didn't mention, or I did mention actually in the very first one, is that if you get the fabric kit, the backing is not included in that. So make sure that you order your backing or you're not going to be able to finish your quilt. So Oma is such a cutie. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that we're using her as our very first sponsor. So get your backing kit. How cute is this? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How cute. It matches the houses in Boulevard and in Candy Corn Quilt. For those of you that joined me for Boulevard, we did it as a group project in the Kimberbell group last year, and I know a lot of people are doing it right now. And we have our own Katie Mayo doing the Broom Hilda quilt in our group as well. We've got a few things going on for those overachievers that want to do more, so that's super awesome. And then one last thing, Oma also sent me a Kimberbell shirt. How cute is that? I love this. This is wonderful. She's such a sweetheart. Thank you, Oma. All right, so we are going to work on broom parking today. Oh, one last thing. Sorry. I wanted to ask you, did you guys finish cutting out your quilt? I finished mine yesterday. I'm pretty happy about it. Oops, I'm dropping some. So I put all of my blocks into these dry erase bags. They're in the video description. Underneath this video, there is a link to the bags that I bought. And I did them by day. So each day I have one bag that has all of my products that I need to be able to complete that challenge. So super helpful. And the best part for me, clean freak that I am, my craft room is so organized. So you should have seen it when I was working on Boardwalk with everybody. Oh my gosh, if you saw my craft room, I would have been so embarrassed. There were piles of batting and the fabrics and just everything all over, and I'm moving it all aside to try and make room for what I needed to work on. And oh, this is so much easier to have it all done and ready for me. I really like this idea. I thought it would make me insane to spend an entire day cutting. And actually it took me probably 3 days because I was doing it in between the tutorials. But put a movie on, turn on Hallmark Channel, sit there and cut your fabrics. And I think this is great. I love to be able to have the space available in my room without stuff everywhere. So anyway, do what works for you. It's working well for me, and I'm excited to get started on broom parking. Let's do it. One other thing, for those that are pre-cutting, I wanted to show you something that I found, a mistake that I made. So like I said, I did all of my blocks by day. So block 1, 2, 3 were all together, and then 4, and then 5 and 6. And depending on how they were in the book, I just did them that way. And then when I got toward the end, I did sections. So section 4. And I wanted to show you that on one of my blocks, actually on a couple of them, these black and white. So earlier on, I think I overcut one of them a little bit too large. And so now these, the little ones, are a little too small. And so this is what I did in case you find that you make that mistake as well. So what I did is I cut the fusible stabilizer to exactly the size that it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be 2.5 by 2.5. And so I cut it to that, and then I fused it onto the back of the black and white fabric. And if you can see, so I have this little tiny edge that my fabric wasn't quite big enough. It wasn't quite the right size, a tiny bit small, my own doing. But so what this does is it gives me my seam allowance, right? So instead of having to do 1/4 inch from the edge that was too small, now I'm doing 1/4 inch, or I will be doing 1/4 inch from the sides, and it'll work fine because it'll still pull in from the fabric. It won't make it too small, and where you're trying to piece everything together and going, oh, I messed up. So if you cut one a little bit small, or on your pinwheel blocks, if those end up a little bit small, whatever the case may be, use some fusible stabilizer, and that gives you your seam allowance, and it makes it the right size that it's supposed to be. So that's just my little tip, since I did mess up on a couple of these. So cut really well or use this little fix. Hey everyone, one quick note. So on the broom parking, we are going to put down our applique piece, and we are not going to trim it. And we are going to do all of the wording on this block, and then we are going to trim it before we do the satin stitch. So we did this also on the headstone blocks, but a couple of us made mistakes or made a mistake and forgot to trim before adding the satin stitch. We're so programmed to trim after we put down the applique piece and then forgot later. So make sure it will all be in the tutorial, just like the other one, but we're just programmed to do it in a certain way. So just make sure and notice on the tutorial that it's going to have us put down this applique piece, then we'll stitch all of our wording before trimming, and then after we do that we will trim it right before the satin stitch. So just keep an eye out that a few did make that mistake, and so we want to make sure to be careful about it on this next one. So Broom Parking does that same thing that we did on headstones, and like I said, we're going to trim right before we do the satin stitch. So just keep that in mind. That's all.